Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome to another episode of Found Footage Fridays with my co-host, Tom Reimer.
Ho, ho, horror.
You're so festive with your sweater and your hat.
Has to be. This is the official Christmas special Found Footage Fridays
Yeah.
for the whole family.
Yeah, there was no Christmas found footage for us to cover last year.
Nope. Not this year, though. There's something for us this year.
Yeah, and technically there would have been more if we were willing to, if we were going to, but that'll give us some.
It's the craziest time of the year, so let's be honest.
It's so busy.
We don't really have as much freedom.
It's a lot. So, so this was one that I watched really closely last year because I thought it was going to come out and we were going to be able to cover it, December of 2022. And even though it has a release date of December of 2022, I don't think it was actually available until like literally a few weeks ago on Tubi. So we'll call it a 2022, 2023, I guess. But the movie we are talking about is the very festive Christmas found footage movie, The Christmas Tapes. So just a brief synopsis. In this Christmas horror anthology, a family's movie night on Christmas Eve is interrupted by a stranger insistent on making the next Christmas classic film himself.
I gotta say, I loved the setup and the start of this movie. At first, wasn't sure what it was supposed to be, which was awesome. But it starts out, this is not spoiling anything, but it starts out this family of four sitting around watching their Christmas movies on Christmas Eve. It's their family tradition. There's a knock at the door, and there's a stranger. It's a pretty classic setup. And his car is broken down right out front.
Yeah,
and he comes in. Needing a place to stay warm, and he's got a package, a present in his hands, and we don't know what's in it. And so just right out of the gate, I think it was like an awesome setup. Someone asks him what's in the box, and he says, "Oh, he doesn't say." He's like, can't
you gotta wait till midnight.
Gotta wait till midnight. So I thought that was just perfect opening for a Christmas horror movie. Never mind Christmas found footage. So great start.
No, I agree. This is very VHS, right? There's just for anyone interested in something that you could compare this to. It's a Christmas VHS. There's an overall story, and then there's little stories in between. And the biggest difference obviously is this is a Christmas one.
And actually the overall story is probably the most minimal part of this movie. It's very,
as far as screen time, you mean?
Yeah. I mean, each of the individual segments is far longer than probably the rest of the movie.
Especially, I think two of them in particular take up most of the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
There's probably I don't know, is it 5 segments, something like that? 4 or 5?
It's 4, I think.
And so it's definitely, I would say, an anthology found footage if we're talking sub genres, and it's our first Christmas found footage that we've done. Speaking of sub genres, and I was a fan of this. I definitely have some critiques, but I really did enjoy this. I think this is one, just because of how I feel about holiday movies and things that I tend to rewatch. It's tradition. I could see myself watching this time of year again, just because as far as horror and found footage go. Would you say it's fair to say this is sort of light-ish?
It's actually categorized as comedy horror.
Yeah, so some of it I agree with, but this, I guess you could say this about some of the segments on VHS. Some of them have moments of levity and can be kind of funny. There were also some really dark moments in this too, just like VHS.
It definitely gets
into very funny. Yeah,
it definitely gets into some dark. I think that to me it's less comedy and more just has humor in it, which I think is
Right.
two very different things. I didn't find it to be a funny horror movie, but there were moments where I did catch myself kind of like laughing in dismay, like in disbelief, I guess, of like some of the things that happen, or being like, oh, like, that kind of stuff.
Some of it was like it wasn't it wasn't like I don't know if it was intended. I think it was intended to be funny. It was like written very smartly
Yes.
in that
Yeah.
they were being very serious, the characters, but some of the stuff they said was so ridiculous,
Yeah.
especially some of like the main characters in the main story arc. I thought I laughed out loud a couple of times. And
Yeah, me too.
there was one line, and I'm not going to consider this spoilery, but there was, I won't say it. I'll save it for spoilers because I guess it does.
Okay.
There's a really funny thing, but it will spoil a little bit. So
Okay.
I'll save it.
Okay. Um, yeah, I think overall it's a pretty solid film too. I liked it. I liked how different all of the segments were.
Very
Because I
different.
so I went into this completely blind. I didn't watch a trailer. I just
Same.
thought Christmas tapes. It it,
Yep.
it did it, I think it's very apparent from the description. It's like home invasion style. So that's what I was prepared for. I wasn't prepared to go in and see that it was like a VHS style kind of anthology
Yeah.
thing. But horror anthologies are like one of my favorite things. I love horror anthologies in books and in film. I love them, and in shows. And there's a couple of Christmas horror anthologies that or at least one. Is there more than one? I know that there's at least one that I watch every year that I love, but it's not found footage, but it's a horror Christmas
Oh,
anthology, and
perfect.
it's great. And so I really like stuff like that. So it was kind of cool going into it, not really having any expectations, but being interested. I love Christmas horror too.
Yep.
So this
I
checked a lot of boxes for me.
I think one thing that I liked about this, as far as
Mhm.
anthologies or found footage anthologies go, I didn't think there were any like duds. Often with these anthologies,
I
there's like
agree.
one or two that you're like,
You're
wow,
like,
I could just skip that the next time. That was
mhm,
not the case with this one. I
I
thought they were
agree.
all. It's not like they were all like knocked out like amazing, but like they were all like solid. And depending on what you're looking for, it's probably at least something for everybody in this
It's
collection.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a really interesting mix of things that I
it is.
again was not expecting. I
Yeah,
didn't expect there to be such a variety. Yeah, no, I agree. I think like when we've talked about VHS films, when we've reviewed them and talked about them, we do always have one. We'll have like one, maybe two, depending on which one we're talking about, where we just really loved it. It was really great. And then there were some in the middle ones, and then there's like one that, like you said, you
yeah.
just be like, I probably wouldn't sit through it again. And this wasn't like that. I
They
agree.
were all solid. Yep, all solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, how do you, because it sounds like we both had some pretty positive thoughts. So where
Yeah.
do you rate this?
Oh boy. So no, I did like it. I really did like it. I didn't. It's not what it doesn't have for me. I would say is it wasn't necessarily like scary. I would say. I mean, there are some scary moments, but this doesn't have like the terrifying factor or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I didn't need to. I think it worked without it. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna be generous. It's a holiday season, so I'm gonna be very generous here.
Okay.
I'm gonna give this surprisingly 7 tapes out of 10. 7 Christmas tapes or holiday tapes.
Holiday tapes. Well, it's a holiday miracle because I also would give this 7 out of 10 tapes.
Wow,
And I
it's a
think
Christmas miracle.
that's right. I think there's like you said, I do think I have some complaints. I do, but I think when I and you know this already because I say this all the time when I'm talking about the way I rate things, but I creativity goes a long way with me.
Sure.
When something is creative like or unique and I've never seen it before, and it's even if it's executed a little under the bar, it gets extra points for being creative, and so
Yeah,
that's a big portion of this. I also think that our main villain, I think nailed it. I think
he was great. He was
he was
great.
great.
I, I,
um
I think the acting in general. So this is a tough movie to make because where all of these anthologies are because you need a lot of actors, and so the potential for there to be bad acting is very
Mm.
likely
Yep.
or easy. And actually, with this movie,
Mm.
I thought most of the actors were good, were
I
pretty
agree.
good, and I thought
I,
the writing was like not just decent enough. Like a lot of found footage movies is just sort of like okay. I thought the writing in this movie is actually smart in some places, and like
mhm.
the humor was pretty intelligent, sharp. Uh,
Yeah, I'm with you. I totally
so
agree.
so I was sort of surprised by both of those things,
Yeah.
the acting and the writing
Yeah.
was really good.
Hmm.
Often I feel like the bar in found footage movies, the bar for acting can be low sometimes, and so sometimes we're like,
Yes.
"Wow, that guy was amazing," when they probably were just like fine. But in this movie,
Yeah.
uh, I just felt it was just solid, just solid.
Yeah. No, I think so too. I think the only weaknesses that I saw in the acting side of it, and it really wasn't even that bad. I didn't think that the parents in the main story were that great at times. They weren't very convincing as
Yeah,
far as being like, you've got a stranger in your house that's, a threat in some way, and your children are there, and you're just kind of like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I
sure,
just, I feel like as a parent, I would be a lot different. And so that was really my, but again, that's not because they were awful. It just wasn't great. Of course, I think the strongest was our main villain, and then going up against him is like, but anyway, but no, I agree. I think the acting and stuff was super strong in this too.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, trying to think. I would say without spoiling, one of my biggest complaints
Mhm.
about this movie would
Yeah.
be that I thought some of the segments were too long.
Yep.
Is that what you were gonna say? Yeah, I don't think they need,
Particularly the last one.
particularly the last one, which was like half the movie.
So
Um,
long. Yeah.
and it was good. I enjoyed it, but it was too long.
It's too
And
long.
like there, the connecting story, right? The main story, whatever you want to call it, was
Mhm.
I actually enjoyed it, and I would have liked more of that, and probably
Yeah.
less of some of these other stories. You could have made the same little scenes without needing so much time. You really didn't. You could have done a lot more with less, I think.
Yeah, especially so for me, the last segment was the one I felt was too long. I started to kind of like look at my phone a little too often, like that kind of thing.
Yeah,
I think the only other one that probably could have been a little bit shorter was probably the first one. But I will say, I think that some of the things that are in the first one that are more like character building, I think really ended up being necessary and good. But it's just that those two were so long compared to, well, and we had one that was what, like a minute and a half
yeah.
or
That's why
2 minutes.
I wondered if it was actually technically five. Like, is there was a four, and then like the mini one was. I'm not sure,
It's four segments. It's
including the mini one.
Travel Buggies, The
Yeah.
Christmas Gift, Untitled, which is the little baby one, and then The Christmas Spirit is the
Oh,
last one.
that's it, huh? Oh, okay. For
Yeah.
some reason I thought there was another. Yeah. So
It's
which was the
probably because the last one felt so long.
so the last one was super long. Was it Travel Buggies? Was that the other long one
Yeah,
or
that's the first
the
one.
first
Mhm.
one? Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, but anyway, but no, I agree. I think that was one of my biggest complaints was how long, like, I just was like,
But
"Okay," like,
as far as complaints go, like it's not the worst thing you could say.
no, not at
Uh,
all. We
this
have
is
we have said, yeah, no, no.
no, this movie. But we're gonna spoil it in a second. We're gonna probably go segment by segment, I guess, right? But like, um, just generally for those who haven't seen it, who are gonna bail out before spoilers, I really think it's a
Mhm.
solid one for the season. It's a
Yeah,
solid found footage movie. The
yep.
writing's good, the acting's good. It's
Mhm,
fun.
mhm,
Has some scary moments. This
mhm,
is solid, just in general. And I'm glad it's finally available for
mhm.
people to watch, and
Yeah,
hopefully people do discover it like we have finally
yeah, and if we didn't say, I can't remember, it's on Tubi, so you
on
can watch
Tubi.
it for
Yep.
free.
Hmm.
So there's really no reason not to check it out, especially if you're a Christmas horror fan, which
It's
most
it's
of us are.
it's worth it. It's
Yeah.
definitely worth it. So
Yeah.
so I
Okay.
think we're gonna probably want to talk about these segments and spoil
Yeah.
them now.
Yeah.
So if you are watching and you don't want to be spoiled,
Mhm.
go watch it and then come back and hear our thoughts on the spoilers.
Yeah. Yeah. All
Here
right.
we go.
So the first one is called Travel Buggies.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yep. It's a couple of content creators, right? I
yeah,
guess
I think she's the content
travel
creator and she kind of lugs him around,
or boyfriend, or
her boyfriend.
and
Yeah.
it seems like they're filming. I got confused with
Hmm.
the first segment because it seemed like they're traveling somewhere. I wasn't exactly sure. She keeps saying they want to go to Germany, but I don't believe they were in Germany. It
No,
was
they were supposed to go and the trip fell through. So they last minute made decisions to do this trip instead and then record some things while they were gone.
okay, but we don't know
Um,
where they are, right?
I don't think they say. No.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think it's like Christmas Eve or something, and
Yeah.
they're you know, filming something in the middle of the woods. Uh, the boyfriend, is really complainy the whole time. Really wants to whiny, I guess is the word,
He's
and
really frustrating. Yeah.
wants to is really ungrateful and wants to just kind of be home and not be outside. Of course, once they get out there and they have a tent, doesn't actually seem like they have much in the way of supplies or food or anything. But I guess the backdrop is they found a scarecrow at some point, and
Mhm.
there was some story. I can't recall the name of the character. Do
Yeah.
you?
So this is why I really liked this one.
Folklore, right?
It's folklore. It's Hans Trap, which is a basically a scarecrow looking figure that was used to
Yep.
scare children, and he would murder children. He would follow them and murder them if they didn't, listen or follow the rules. And it's first of all, I think scarecrows are terrifying in nature. I think like they are just naturally unsettling to me.
Yep.
I don't know if you've seen Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, the movie, but woof,
Haven't.
Scare
I have not
scare
been.
it's so good. It's PG-13, but it's phenomenal. But scarecrows are very, in my opinion, very unsettling. I mean, they're meant to mimic
Hmm.
someone to scare away the
Yep.
crows, like, and so they're very unsettling. And the really cool thing for me, at least, was I don't know everything lore-wise, that's not a thing, but I'd never even heard of this
Yeah,
Hans trap. I'd
I
never
hadn't
heard
either.
of that.
Yep.
So they do the little dance or jig or whatever you want to call it, where they call out to him
They
and say
summon him
whatever.
stupidly, like this happens in every horror movie. With they hear a story and oh, we should summon him, and it obviously never turns out okay because it's a horror movie. So,
Yep.
um,
Yeah.
and yeah, they do that, and they go camping, and so you get the classic. Here's another like trope in found footage films, thanks
Mhm.
to Blair Witch Project, is that you have the couple alone in their tent, and everything's fine, and then in the middle of the night, there's a sound out in the right outside.
Yeah, they hear yes, and they do they hear something on the tent too, like scratching or something? I can't remember. I know they hear something in the woods, maybe that's all it is. And they're
Um,
freaking out, like, I mean, 0 to 100, like
no, yeah, they just hear something just outside their tent. She unzippers it, and there's just a figure standing there. And so she quickly zippers the tent back up, and she's freaking out. There's somebody outside, and of course, he doesn't believe her, right? And it's just like, no, it's your imagination. It can't possibly
yeah.
be that. There's got to be a different explanation for that. Which, by the way, is a thing that comes up again later on in the last segment, where you have the couple and the boyfriend who doesn't believe her.
It's such a it's a ho that is like
It's a
that
thing.
is one of the most common horror tropes though, because it's always children or women that experience things first, and then the
Mhm.
husbands and fathers are the ones that are like, "You're insane."
There must be a logical explanation. I feel like they actually say that in both, like maybe both of those scenes, at
And
least the last one.
I tell my friends all the time, I'm like, "Let me explain something to you. If you know I am of sound mind and I start telling you I see stuff, you better believe me or I'm finding new friends." Like, I can't
I'm,
stand that
I'm,
trope. I hate
I'm
it.
sure there's a logical explanation for the candles that just lit themselves and appeared on the fireplace. That was laughable, but that's the last segment. We'll
Trying it.
get to that.
Yeah.
not to confuse you.
But
Yes.
yes,
So
so
there's got to be a logical explanation for the person standing out in the middle of the night in front of their tent. His first thing he says was, "It's probably just some kids playing a prank on us." Yes, in the middle of the deep woods
yes.
on Christmas Eve in the snow. Um, and of course, they decide to make a run for it.
Yep.
Never works.
Nope.
And they don't make it very
Nope.
far.
Nope.
The whatever he's called,
Hans Trap.
yeah, Hans Strap. They summoned him, and he gets them. He gets them.
Yeah. And like we get like really crazy shot of like him. He has her arm and he's like eating from it or something. I was like,
His arm,
what?
yeah, that boyfriend's arm, I think. Yeah,
That was the boyfriend. Somebody, yeah, the arm.
boyfriend.
And
Yeah.
I was like, that's all right. That looks pretty good. Like,
Yep. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, 'cause it was all in black and white. It was, yeah, it was well, or night vision. It was really
yeah, it
well
was.
done.
They used what was going to be on screen, I think, in a very intelligent way because you see enough that you understand what's going on, but you don't see so much that you can pick it apart. I think, and I thought he looked pretty good
He
too.
did. It sort of reminded me of what worked in Horror in the High Desert, how that looked, with the night vision and what you did see of the creatures or whatever they are in those two movies. It sort of reminded me of that sort of feel.
Yeah, yeah. No, I
So that
agree.
was so that was the first segment.
Mhm.
Now what we just told you sounds like it could have been a fairly short segment.
It
Wasn't
wasn't.
short. It was pretty long. What do you would say? It was probably like a half an hour, like
Well, so because this found footage movie is an hour 40.
an hour 40. Yeah,
So it was probably, yeah, 25, 30 minutes. It was long. And then the
yeah.
other segment was just as long, I think,
The last one. Yeah,
or if not longer. Yeah. So this one might have been 20, 25 minutes. And I think the other one might have been like 35 or
yeah.
40.
But by the way, we
Um,
didn't explain like why they're even watching why these segments are happening because that would have been a spoiler. So the guy who comes
oh,
in,
right.
the overarching story, like this guy who comes in with
Yeah.
the president that can't be opened up till midnight,
Mhm.
he eventually pulls a gun on everybody and
Ties them up.
says like, "We're gonna make basically the greatest Christmas movie ever." And I don't know, that part was a little confusing because then in making the greatest Christmas movie ever, he makes them watch old Christmas movies. So that was a little confusing.
Yeah.
But
Well, and
he,
it's all centered around the daughter who's the older of the two siblings. She got a new camera for Christmas because they
right,
opened one present on Christmas Eve
yep,
and they get to pick, and she picked her big present on accident, not knowing
grandma,
that the son picked like socks or something silly. And they make like a whole thing of like, well, she picked the really good present this year, and you only get to open one on Christmas Eve.
yep. And
And
so
so
his
that's
boss,
that's our like camera story.
and the guy has a box of VHS tapes. Obviously, we all knew that's what it was going to be.
Mm,
Um, a box of VHS tapes, and one at a time, he's like, he has the family. So he has the daughter tie up the family with Christmas lights, first of
Christmas
all,
lights.
which is a good touch.
Very
Um,
festive, yes.
and like, but the family is like pretty comical, like in that, like the dad especially. I don't know, something about him, like very comical, and
Yeah,
the
the
bad guy was
parents.
funny too. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know, but like, there's the one point where the dad tries to fight back, and this is what I didn't want to say before. The dad like trying to fight back at him, and the bad guy's like, "You better stop it! I used to take kickboxing or something like that," and he just says it like very seriously, and I
Yeah.
just thought that was really funny. Anyways,
Yeah.
um, so yeah, that was so. What was something buggies? That was the first.
Travel buggies.
Travel buggies was the first one. Okay.
Yeah, and then the second segment is called The Christmas Gift. I really liked this one.
Christmas Kid was great.
I think
And
this is my favorite
yeah,
one.
it's the creepiest, it's the most horror, I think.
It felt
Um,
real. Did it feel real to you? Like,
yes,
real
it's
life
a
scenario of, like,
m
what happened to that guy and, like, I
where
don't
did
know,
they
like
find where did they find the
Mhm.
guy that played Santa? Like, he was, like, so creepy.
He was really bu even from the first second.
You knew it. You're
Like,
like,
when he
"Oh."
walked in the door, I was like, I don't know, like, I felt
So,
so
the setup for this is okay, the setup is stupid. I'm just gonna say that. Like, the setup is
Mhm.
stupid, but it's an awesome segment. But, like,
Yeah.
and by stupid, I mean, like, I can't imagine anyone would think that's a great idea. But, like,
Yeah.
Basically, because the explanation didn't make any sense, is what I mean.
Yeah,
This
yeah, yeah.
guy, this guy's like, my kids are playing too on YouTube too much and playing too many video games, and they never pay attention to me. So I'm gonna have someone ship me in a box so they can open up the box and find me, and that will make them pay attention to me. I don't know. It's a little far fetched.
I think they
That's the
should
stuff.
have framed it like I had to go out of work. I had to go out of town for work, right?
Yes, that would
And
have been
I
better.
told, and I wasn't supposed to be able to be home for Christmas, but now I am. So I did this as like a
Although
surprise for my family.
Although you find out that this guy is supposed to be sort of like not a great guy, so maybe that's why he would do something stupid like this.
And maybe that's why his kids didn't want anything to do with him.
Right. So this is his great plan, and so he like I don't know where he goes looking for somebody, but I don't know if he's like on Craigslist or something, but he finds somebody who's willing to bring him in a box and leave him at his. I don't know why it was hard. Does he have like no friends that were able to do that? But like honestly, like he had to find a stranger to do that.
He also could have just parked a little bit off the driveway and put himself in a box on the
It
doorstep.
was again doesn't make a whole lot of sense. That part, the explanation doesn't make sense. But
But
so the second you see the guy, he's like, "Oh, someone agreed to do it, and they're coming today." And
Mhm.
so you see the guy shows up. I don't know at his place of work or something. The guy's
Yeah, it's
dressed
awful.
as Santa Claus, and you like, just tell right away that there's something off about this guy.
Mhm.
Um, and the actor was good. I mean, the acting was all really great. And he, he's like, "Oh, what's your name?" And the guy just says just like Santa Claus, and he just like straight at Santa Claus and wouldn't give his real name. So they go out. He's like ready to go, and he says, they're driving in this guy's truck, a big box in the back, and he says, "But before we go drive to your house and you get in the box, can we go pick up Mrs. Claus?" Um, and he's like, "Yeah, I guess so." So they pick up Mrs. Claus, who's also something's a little off. You can tell.
Yes. Totally
Um,
agree.
and they're like, "You know what? Why don't you? We're still a few blocks away. Why you can get in the box? Why don't you get in the box now?" The dad's like originally like a little unsure about that, but eventually he reluctantly agrees to get in the box. And it's only supposed to be like a block or two away to his house, but
Mhm.
they start driving and driving, and it sounds like they're going like off road
Like
somewhere.
over, yeah, it's like he's like
Oh,
flying
he's
all over the place.
screaming like, "Let me out of here!" Like clearly already. I mean, obviously, like this seemed like such a boneheaded mistake. You find some strangers on the internet to drive you in a box. Okay. And so eventually he wakes up and he's like all tied up and he's in a chair in what
Mhm.
looks like a basement or something like that
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
two of them, right?
Mhm. Yep.
And then what? Then it's like a
Then
game show sort of thing.
yeah, it's like a pick the briefcase, but they've got this like thing in front of him that's got looks like presents and he's got
Oh,
to
it's like
pick
an
one.
advent calendar. It's supposed to be
It's
like
like
an
an ad,
advent.
thank you, advent
Yeah.
calendar. I couldn't think of the words. And it's like he has to pick a number off of the thing. And so it starts out like cringy because the first thing he gets is the lotion, right? I think.
Yes. Oh yeah, that was really cringe.
And so the wife, like, I'll go quickly over this part. So the wife, like, massages his feet. It's really unsettling. And then, so
So
I
he's like
think is it,
he's freaking out about that, and they're like, "This was one of the good ones," basically. Which it
yeah,
turns out it probably was one of the good ones.
yeah. So, and I think it's after that the Santa reveals like who he is, right? He reveals
Yeah,
it before they do the next box.
yeah.
So,
He's like
yeah.
he basically there's a history, and he tells a story like how the Santa tells a story about how he got laid off basically because um he was a delivery guy and he once delivered a bunch of advent calendars, and then I don't know if they were the guy who received them, the company claimed they were late or he didn't get them all or something was wrong with the order. And so whoever that guy was got the Santa Claus fired from his
It's
job.
supposed to be him, right? Is it
And
supposed to
so
be?
it was the guy sitting in the chair. So you find out like it was clearly
Yeah,
him.
okay.
So
Right.
he was seeking
Revenge.
revenge for getting
Mhm,
fired whenever that was.
mhm.
And the guy's like realizing, yeah, it was me. Yep, I'm the one that did that. And so
Yeah,
now they're basically torturing him. It's like Saw, you know what I mean? They're like
yeah. He picks another box, they cut off some fingers,
they cut off
and
his
then
ears. They give him
oh,
elf ears.
is the elf ears, that's what it
Yeah,
was, not fingers,
elf.
elf
Yeah,
ears.
everything is like there's mistletoes. That was the feet thing. Then there's
What
elf ears where they cut his ear. Um,
what was the last one called? The last one was like
I don't remember what it
God,
was called.
the effects on that one
Oh,
messed
yeah,
me up. I was
but
not prepared. When
yeah,
it's
yeah.
yeah, 'cause they get
He
what do
meets
they
his untimely demise. Let's just say with the last box that they picked.
yes, and it looks amazing. Like, it looks like they just did it looks also bad, right? But I just mean in
Yeah,
the sense of, like, I wasn't prepared for it to look as realistic as it did.
yeah, yeah.
So when it happened, that was one of those moments where I was like, "Oh," 'cause, like, I really genuinely, like, I didn't
Yeah.
expect that.
So he doesn't make it. We'll just say
Yep.
that. If you
They
want to know
take his
how,
remains and put him
yeah,
in the box
and drop him off at his
and
house,
drop him off at his house.
and then ring the doorbell. Which bold, they ring the doorbell and like look right in the camera,
And they
and
just take their time leaving
well, I think
a
they're
bit.
clearly not well. They're
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, demented. Yeah. So
yeah,
it's yeah,
demented is the
so
word. Yeah.
yeah,
So
so
that was it was horrifying, but I mean very well done.
I
That segment.
agree. Totally agree. I liked that one.
That's probably the best segment, I would say. The
Agreed.
third segment was like 2 seconds long. Like this one was like it was like
It doesn't even have a title. It's just called Untitled.
untitled. There was a guy who was like submitting a dating video or something, and then suddenly appears in like a field and has instructions to like deliver a package
Mhm.
in the next 2 minutes or something like that,
Yep.
or it will explode.
Yeah.
And so you're seeing everything from his point of view,
Yeah.
and he's like seeing visions because there's something implanted in his head or
It
something like that.
warns him that too he may see things that are unsettling, but
Yeah,
to just ignore them.
yeah. Uh, and of course he doesn't make it. He does not get there in time. So uh,
That
yeah, so
one's super
I
short.
mean, it literally is probably like a minute or two. It was not. It
It's
was
really
probably two
short. Yeah.
minutes. Yeah. So
Yep.
so that was that. The
Yep.
the, the third and final segment is a Christmas the Christmas spirit,
Yes.
which was very, would you say, paranormal activity?
Mhm.
Very much so. It's like classic setup. Okay, this
Yeah.
couple is moving into a new house,
Mhm.
and what was odd, it was like the moving trucks didn't arrive, so they didn't have any of their stuff. All they had was their Christmas tree, and then she found a box of Christmas decorations in the closet. So he goes out to like, get some supplies and a mattress or something for their first night, the
Mhm.
boyfriend, and she's left behind in this strange new house.
Mhm.
And here's like the creepy tune or music playing
Mhm.
from the closet. Discovers this box of Christmas decorations.
Yep.
The music is coming from this creepy Santa Claus,
Mhm.
and she puts all the decorations up on the tree, and he comes home and they go to bed. Right?
Mhm.
That's what happens.
Yep.
And then in the middle of the night, he wakes up to find her missing. And then in a maybe sort of a shout out, a Blair Witch shout out, he finds her standing in a corner,
In the corner.
facing
Yeah.
the wall.
Yeah.
She's like ringing a bell, sort of again paranormal activity ish,
Yeah.
and she's confused. And then he goes and finds in the like the living room, all these candles are lit up, the Christmas tree is on, all these decorations smashed all over the place. She freaks out, and they freak out basically. And she wants
Mhm.
to leave right away. And of course, he's trying to say it's in her imagination, which I don't know how that's possible because he's also seeing the candles lit on the counter. Okay. Um,
I
but
don't know. Yeah, I don't know
so
why that is that's such a common thing though. I
I
don't
feel
know.
like even if I would, it wasn't thinking necessarily something paranormal, I would
Mhm.
say, well, someone was in my house.
At the
So
very minimum. Yeah, at
if
the
it
bare
wasn't due and you're not going to admit to doing this, let's leave. Let's get out of here because someone was in our house playing a prank on
minimum. Yep.
us.
Call the police,
At
something.
minimum. Uh,
Yep.
but her initial reaction is she wants to leave. His initial reaction is to stay. So the compromise is to have like an exorcism, basically, or after one night.
You know what I will say? The guy that they get, I thought it was going to be like another home invasion one.
No, he was good. That's another like I actually thought he was legitimately funny. Like
No, I did
he was
too, but I
funny.
thought the story was going to end up being
Oh yeah, like
more
yeah.
like that than the direction it ended up going in.
No. It's
So
just
he was great. He reminded me of the janitor from Scrubs.
a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. It was just like really absurd, really
Oversharing a lot of information.
yes, ridiculous overshare.
He's like wanting to move in with them. He like brings his bags and
He's like hugging them all over the place. So of course she's getting like creeped out. And but he does so they like lock the door. They don't want him to come back, and he
and
just like climbs in a window, like
he's
comes
like, "Oh, the
anyways.
door was locked."
The door was locked. And they're like, sorry, we're not gonna pay you. We don't want you to do this. He goes, it's okay, I'll do it for free, you know. It's Christmas, you know. And so what is his name? Like is it like Spooky Pete? I don't know, something like that.
I
Something
can't
ridiculous.
remember.
Yeah. So
But he
anyways,
has
he
like a
he
sad story, doesn't he? Like his
it's like it reminds me of like how ridiculously sad the story is in Gremlins, and when she tells the
out
Santa
of nowhere
story.
where Santa died in the
And
chimney.
again, it was like his story was completely out of nowhere. And
Yeah.
I think you're supposed to think like, oh my God, is he like a complete nut job? Is this like creep, basically? Yeah,
Yeah.
I got a bit of a creep vibe.
That was where I thought it was going.
Yeah,
Genuine.
yeah, yeah. But I think it was just sort of a red herring and it's just like a really irreverent
Yeah.
out of place story. And so
Yeah.
he does do this like exorcism or whatever. And they think he's just full of it and he's making it up. So the
Mhm.
guy, at the very end, the boyfriend's like, "That's it, we're done. This is over." And then like the Santa Claus's eyes turn
Oh, hell
green.
breaks loose. Yeah.
Oh my God, that scene was really well done. Again, the effects in
That
that.
plate thing or
Yep.
whatever it was that like went in her head. Oh my
Yeah, and
God.
all the
That was
things that like fly into. Yeah. It was that scene was
wild.
really well done.
Yep.
And then it's tied in a nice little bow at the end where they come back to the main story, right?
Yep.
And he's like, "All right, you watch. I'm gonna let you guys go. You watched all my movies, but one last gift." And he takes out the Santa that's from the last movie and places it down in front of them.
It
And they're
starts
just like,
playing
"It's not
music,
real. It's not real. It's
but it
not
like
real."
turns. Oh my God.
Yeah, that that's really and the music's playing. Yeah. So
Mhm.
why that guy did that? Decided he needed to come in this house and do all this. We don't know.
Mm-mm.
But it's sort of a creep vibe from him too. I would say, like, there
Yeah.
was there was a little bit of if you like those movies, and I know Angel doesn't, but there
Mhm.
was a little bit of that in
I
this
can see.
anthology.
Yeah, I see that. I can see that though. Yeah.
Hmm.
But
But
yeah.
otherwise, yeah, big fan of this movie. Surprised that I liked it as much as I did.
Yeah, me too, because the start of it had me a little nervous. But
Yes.
then it ended up being a little pleasant surprise. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think my only complaint is the last one was too long. That's it.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. That's it. But go out, watch this, and then we want to
yep.
hear what you think. This is our last found footage Fridays of the year, right, Angel?
Yeah, this is it till January.
Okay. So
So happy holidays. Merry
happy
Christmas to
holidays.
those who celebrate. Have fun, enjoy time with your family, friends, and be safe. And yeah, Tom and I will see you in the new year.
In 2024. Crazy.
See you
Be
then.
well. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Bye.